What if giving a damn wasn't just a nice sentiment, but a radical act of rebellion against apathy? What if care was currency and the ones who invested in it put their money where their hearts are? In a world that's often scrolling past the real needs of others, there's a movement quietly brewing, shaking up a local community in the Waterloo region in Ontario, Canada. 100 men who give a damn. What a wonderful title. We're going to explore that. That is interesting to me. They mobilize, they gather, they give, and they prove that when ordinary guys show up and give a shit, extraordinary change becomes possible. Hey, my friends, welcome back to the UNCOMMODiFiED Podcast. I'm Tim Windsor, and today my guests, yes, I said guests, that's plural on the show, are two of those 100 men who give a damn, William Wallace and Adam Smith. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. So now I'm going to do something a little bit different in this intro. Normally, I would introduce Adam and William with some brags and about their bios, but instead I'm going to introduce them with a little bit of a riddle that we'll solve later on. So here's the riddle I want you to think about, listeners. You can see these two men, and you're going to hear their voices. The challenge I have for you throughout our time together is this: who's who? One of these men was a thespian who sold body bags, and the other one's the original IT guy who's been to hell and back. But both have one thing in common. They give a damn, and apparently, like me, they love a wee dram or another kind of drink. And so we're going to set this conversation off like we always do, these Uncorked conversations, with a little drink. Gentlemen, what are you drinking tonight? Adam, what do you got?
Tonight I'm keeping it very basic. I have a rum and coke.
Rum and coke. That's okay. An ode to the rum and coke. William, how about yourself, sir?
I've got a Bone Shaker IPA.
Oh, you know what? That's a good IPA, William.
It is.
I see. I just learned a lot about William with that one, a Bone Shaker IPA. Love it. Well, here's what I've got. I got actually, it's a Niagara whiskey. So this is kind of interesting. Called the Spirit of Niagara. I went to this distillery recently. One of the only whiskey distilleries actually on the lake in Niagara on the lake. And this is quite a drinkable whiskey. And of course, there's a lot of rye in here because it's a good old Canadian whiskey. So, an ode to Canadian whiskey, gentlemen. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh. Never met a whiskey I didn't like. That's awesome. Okay, so let's get into this. Here's the question I want you guys to think about a little bit. So obviously all conversations often, they get sparked with a question. So simply I want to frame the conversation this way. So where did this name come from? That's one of the questions I want to get my head around. How did this all start? And why is it gaining so much traction? And how did you guys find each other? So there's these macro questions. We'll start with this one. Where does the name come from? How did this happen, gentlemen?
It actually started in 2006. A woman in Michigan was looking to raise $10,000 for a number of cribs for a local charity, and she figured, she'd chip in $100, and she wondered who else would chip in $100, and they thought, why don't we get 100 people together, $100 each, $10,000 crowdsourced. There you go. And they raised the money in one meeting, and the 100 women who care started that way. 100 men who give a damn have been around since I think 2013. And there's now over 900 women who care, men who give a damn, men who care, families that care, kids that care, etc.
Well, I must have had my head under a rock, William, for a long time, because it wasn't. And I'm just full disclosure, listeners. This is how I found these gentlemen. I'm doom scrolling I think it was Saturday morning, it was like 4 a.m. or something. I'm doom scrolling because I get up early. I'm doom scrolling on Facebook, right? And all of a sudden, this strange thing comes across my post, and it's like 100 men who give a damn. Now, for those of you who know me well, listeners, I was like, I fucking love that. Like, what is that shit? That looks good. So I go on the website and I'm like, this looks awesome. And now I just like a flyer. Let's find out, who am I going to talk to? Of course, it was it wasn't even William. It was come on, William. We need a better email than that. 100 men who give a damn. I'm like, who's going to get back to me? And all of a sudden I hear from William, and then I hear from Adam. So that's how I find this movement, which is quite amazing. So you guys, this has been around a while. You guys are doing this thing. how do you guys get together? And Adam, how do you fit into this story with William along the way?
So first of all, I want to validate, or I'm grateful for you validating how well our Facebook marketing is working, that we were able to reach some other man who gives a damn and was willing to reach out. Like, that's validation right there. Thank you
Oh
so
my gosh, there you go.
much.
Marketing 101. You found a guy who gives a shit. I give a shit.
That's what
So
we're looking for, is more guys who give a shit.
oh, that's so awesome,
It's
man.
wonderful.
So how does this you start when do you start locally? Like in the Waterloo region, for those of you who are not living in Canada, you're in one of those other countries.
Mhm,
It's about an hour or so, 45 minutes, sort of due west really of Toronto in
mhm.
Canada, just so you get a context. So when does it start for you guys? William, do you get on board first and then you like hog tie Adam, or what happens here?
So what happened was my sister, who belongs to 100 Women Who Care in Calgary, told me about the movement and that there was 100 men in Calgary. And this was about 2014. And I bought the domain 100menwhogiveadamn.org, the generic domain, and sat on it for about 6 months. And then a local MP was doing a sort of a charity open house kind of thing at the local rec center, and a whole bunch of charities were going to be there. And I thought, well, this is a good time for us to start. I'll meet all these charities and find out who we can help. And I had the logo designed. I did the logo. I did up business cards, had them printed within 2 days. Got the website up, and then went to this open house, and basically started from there. And Adam was one of the people that I approached for the first meeting. And the first meeting we only had 60 members, so we weren't quite up to our name. But after that, I think our maximum has been 150 members.
Yeah, I got called out of the blue from William, who I had met before through some business networking events that we had crossed paths before on. But it'd been a couple years since I'd really had any word from William, and then he shows up. He's like, "Hey, want to go for a coffee sometime?" And he's like, "Okay, here's the pitch." And he sits me down and he tells me all about 100 Men Who Give a Damn. I'm like, "That's an amazing idea. Of course I want to show up." And I showed up to the first meeting, and yeah, sure enough, there was 50, 60 guys present, and I was like, "We can do better than this."
It's like
Absolutely.
half as many as we need, give a damn. That's all it is.
Yes. Yes.
So you get this vision, you start, you come together. So do you remember in that first meeting where you don't even have 100 men, you're still trying to figure out what that looks like?
Mhm.
Do you remember the charities that you partnered with in those early days and raised money for?
That's a great question.
There was the
Women's
one.
Crisis Services was definitely one of our
The
first.
first one that was funded was a children's literacy group. I can't
Wow.
recall the name.
So Children's Literacy Group, the Crisis Center, you said, I think, Adam,
Yeah.
Women's Crisis Center. So here's a question. So you're doing this. At what point do you start to realize that maybe, you can make this thing happen? You can find 100 men who give a damn, and you can start. When do you get to that first threshold where you say, we got 100 men now in this room who give a damn?
Month two.
Month
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Meeting to the second quarter.
Holy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really caught on like wildfire. The not that the guys were skeptical of the idea, but they couldn't really picture the idea happening in real time. And once we had the meeting, we had 130 guys easy.
Mhm.
That's amazing. So month one, you got 60. Month two, you got
Yeah.
over 100 men who say like, I give a damn. I can give a shit about lots of shit.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
does this look like? And so let me ask you the process here. So now you've been doing this a while. So obviously, if I understand the model correctly, you invite a charity or a couple of charities or something, you invite them or they appeal to you and you say, hey, come and talk to our group. And the idea is they come and talk, they tell you what's going on, and at the end of it, they walk away with the cash. Like this is Oprah. Like, is
Almost.
this how it
Almost.
works?
You got it pretty close. We
Okay.
don't just invite them.
Okay.
We rely on nominations, which come from our members.
Okay.
So you have to be a member of 100 Men Who Give a Damn, which means you're committed to donating $100 every quarter,
Okay.
right? So you have to sign up willing to commit to that, because it's not just to fund the one charity that's your special interest.
Yeah.
It's about you coming up and saying, I'm willing to continue contributing to our community, $100 every quarter. And here's a couple charities that I'm interested in. And you put them up for nomination.
Okay.
And then we select from those charities, and we hear from 3 every quarter. They each
Okay.
get 5 minutes to tell us what is important about what they do, how they're going to affect our community, how our money directly is going to change what they're doing.
Wow.
And we hear from all 5 charities without any fancy presentations, without any fancy props. Just tell us your story, a little bit of Q&A, hear from 3 charities, and then we vote.
Okay, so you vote then, and okay, so if I'm getting the model correctly, 2 charities leave with 0? How does this work?
Yeah. Well, two charities they
Up
actually
until last month, 2 charities left with 0. Moving forward, we've changed our model so that 2 charities at least go home with $500 to
yeah.
cover the costs for showing up.
Now,
Okay.
what actually
But the
happens
charity
as
goes home with a
well?
whole lot.
What happens as well with the 2 charities that aren't funded is often they'll get boost as far as volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
They'll also get donations in kind, but they've also, I know one charity that received $10,000 from one of our members, and they weren't they weren't the funded charity.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't walk away with nothing if they kiss the babies and shake the hands properly, and then they should walk away with something.
Wow. That is amazing. So you've been running this now every quarter since what year?
2015. So it'll be our 10th anniversary in
Next month.
July.
Wow. So
Yeah,
so
2
so
months.
that you're talking 40 grand a year since then that you guys have raised and invested through your membership, through your group of people, through the other 98 men who give a shit and give
Yeah.
a damn. And
We have raised over $450,000 since inception.
oh my gosh, that is phenomenal, guys. That is so amazing.
It's
And
the power of working together. It's the power of collaboration. It's the power of consistency.
yeah, it's so amazing. And so let me ask you, this movement, which clearly isn't just here, it's across, is it across the globe? I mean, where does
It's
this
mostly in
take
North
shape?
America.
Mostly in North America. So
Yeah,
let me
there
ask
there
you,
are.
if somebody's listening in from another community and they don't have 100 men who give a damn or 100 men who care or 100 women who care, can they start their own local chapters?
Yeah, it's much like Hell's Angels in that everybody does the same thing but in different ways. But really, there's so few moving parts with the way the organization runs that they can do it with at the drop of a hat. I've actually, because I have the generic domain 100menwhogivadamn.org, I come up fairly high, if not at the top of Google. And I've had guys from all across North America approach us for information on how to start the group, and I send them a packet of marketing material to help them start. So we've helped start groups in like New York, Dallas, a couple in Maine, Los Angeles, and a few in Canada as well.
You're like I like that. It's sort of like Hell's Angels, but different. Like the biker gang Hell's Angels, but different. William, by the way, what a great seriously, that's going to make a great social post. Seriously, like we're like the Hell's Angels, but different.
Yeah, you don't have to fix a motorbike to join our club.
That's good because I don't know how to fix a motorbike, so
No.
I'm good with that. And I don't have to live together in some sketchy house like the house that was by me on Highland Road when I was a kid over by the Evergreen Motel. Okay, we don't have to hang out there. That's a little different world back then in Waterloo region. Very different. That's where the Hells Angels used to hang out, and the Choice used to hang out in Kitchener. But that's a whole nother podcast discussion. Not like I know anything about that, gentlemen. But by the way, I love to have a little fun on the podcast. I am so seriously, I am so absolutely intrigued by people like yourself who just don't see barriers, but say, we can do something. And again, this is the interesting thing to me about it is that so often I think so we get this idea that it's got to be 1,000, it's got to be 1,000 men, it's got to be 500 men, it's got to be, it's got to be 10,000 people. No, what you're saying is, look, it's 100 people. That's not that very many when you think about it, who can come together and they can make significant impact. That ought to give all of us some confidence and faith. And again, if you're listening in, I always say you're listening for a reason. Get off your ass and figure out how to be a contributor in your community, like these gentlemen are, who are stirring other men to get off their ass, give a shit about some stuff, care, give a damn, invest, and see their communities grow. So what's the future look like for you guys? So what's the next, what does this year look like? Have you had an event this year already here in the local region?
Yeah, we had an event. When was the last one? In
We had
a
our April event and our January event. Or two
Yep, and
quarters
then
event.
we're
So two. So
then our 10th anniversary is July 17th.
Mhm.
So is the 10th anniversary like 100 men to give 1,000? What is it now?
Well, we're planning some things to get the room ultra full, so probably going to be having guests being able to come without having to spend $100 just to see how things work, door prizes, that kind of thing.
I
Yeah,
love it.
we want to get across to people that um, it's not exclusively about the dollars. Like
Hmm.
what I get out of, like I've been doing this for 10 years
Yeah.
and I wasn't the guy who came up with the idea in the first place. I was just like, that's a cool idea. I'm going to follow you. So for me, it's about hearing from these charities that otherwise I would have no idea they even existed. I would have no idea that the need for their services even existed in our community if I weren't present for this.
Wow.
So the
Awesome.
power is in showing up to the meetings.
Yeah.
So the future is much of what the past has been, which is find your people. Because what I've been surprised about is that there are so many more men who actually give a shit about the things that matter in our community
Yeah.
to people of all types. And these men show up for. And I respect the hell out of that. And I know I'm in the right room when I'm there.
That's
Yep.
that's awesome, and and it's a good reminder because sometimes, unfortunately, we the caring gene sometimes has skipped us men in the
Hmm.
gene pool sometimes.
Right.
We have emotions. Men have emotions. There's usually one of them. It's anger, frustration. That's a manly emotion, I
Th-
suppose. But no,
That's it's permissible, right?
yeah,
That's
these are better emotions. These are emotions of care and concern and compassion for the local community, which again, I'm all over it and I love it a lot. And at the end of the day, again, if you're listening in wherever you're listening in the world, make an investment in your local community. That's awesome. If you're in the local region and you're listening to that, we're gonna give you a way to hook up with William and Adam at the end of this, so you can talk to them. But now I want to just pause for a second, and I'm gonna go back into my intro. So we're gonna have some fun today. So I introduced you guys and said I think I said something like this. By the way, pretty crafty language, I think, for an old dude, I think. So one of you is a thespian who sold body bags, and one of you is an IT guy who's been to hell and back. So I'm going to ask, well, I'll start with this. Who's the thespian who sold body bags? Who would that be? Oh, that's William. William. Okay, William, you gotta tell my listeners about this. Okay, so William, you were or are a thespian. For those of you, by the way, who don't know what that word is, that is actor. Just in case you get concerned, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, my friends. William was a thespian, an actor, and other things, of course. But also, he sold body bags. Which, by the way, I did a double take when I got that email from William, and I said, "Hold on for a second." He's like, he casually mentions it in his bio. I sold body bags. I'm like, dude, can you tell me more about this? So, William, tell us a little bit about your journey in life and business and who you are, and because that takes you to this moment. But you were a thespian who sold body bags.
Well, as a kid, I did acting in amateur theater and such, and I got a job working for CBC for a season on a children's television show called Pencil Box. No one has ever heard of it, but it won the best children's television show of 1979. So there you go.
Wow.
And I went to theater school and it didn't work out, so I became a teacher. But along the way, to make ends meet, I worked for funeral supply company, and our main product was the best, and I still to this day I could sell these body bags. Non-PVC, Canadian made, tear proof, and cheap. And I could sell those night and day.
Okay, just so you know, I'm getting concerned now because you did talk about the Hells Angels, and now you're talking about body bags, William. What
This is
the
why
heck?
you don't refuse an offer from William to join his club.
That's why you better. Hey, when he asks for your $100, you better give him $100 because if
Exactly.
not, he's got a body bag waiting for you, brother.
Exactly.
Oh, William, that's amazing. And then you went into the graphics business, and now you're retired. And I mean, what an amazing journey. But man, I want to tell you something. That was the most hilarious email I've received from anybody I've ever had on the show. Can you tell me a bit about yourself? And I sold body bags. I'm like, I actually took my wife. I said, can you look at this? This guy sold body bags. She goes, well, people have to buy them.
Yeah.
Oh, William, I love it, man. Oh, that is so awesome. Okay, so of course, let's just now tuck into Adam's story. So, Adam, the way I took your bio and sort of condensed it, I said,
Sure, yeah.
you're the original IT guy, which
Mhm.
has a lot of meaning, obviously, for you. But
Mhm.
part of your story that I also took is I think you've been to hell and back in your own personal journey, which is interesting to me as well. So, tell us a little bit about Adam Smith.
Well, I mean, if you've ever worked in IT or had to deal with IT in any way, you understand the hell. Like,
Yes.
do I need to elaborate more on that?
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
but no, it's been a journey of 20 years of starting a business based on a passion that then got slowly, you know, squashed down by the realities of trying to deliver on the promise of what I was able to do for people. So I no longer have a passion for computers. It's great that they work and they do all these marvelous things, but I don't want to play with them. Like as soon as we're done, I'm going to walk very far away from my computer.
Yeah.
But no, building the business became my interest, and so building something that um, provided reliability and peace of mind to people beyond what I could do myself has been important to me, and involving myself in my community has been important to me as an extension of that because helping is where I started, and that's still where I continue.
Wow. And then part of your bio and your story is you went through a season of just some personal
Oh
challenges,
God, yes.
sort of burning out like a motherboard along the way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always have always been someone who says yes to every new challenge that arises,
Yeah.
and so uh, well, William was a witness to this as well because when 100 Men encountered 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and we could no longer hold events in person, that
Mm-hmm.
was a big shift. I was also chair of the board of the Chamber of Commerce, which was an events-driven organization. I was also trying to run my own tech business, which no longer could make on-site calls.
Jeez.
So yeah, burnout is a very real thing. It's why I'm so glad that 100 Men Who Give a Damn supports men's charities that look into men's health and men's wellness as well.
Awesome.
But and grateful that it covers all sorts of charities. But of course, that's been something that has been a driving force for me since the beginning. I was involved heavily in Movember for a decade before I joined 100 Men Who Give a Damn.
Awesome. And thanks, guys, for sharing a little bit about your story. But I thought in light of that, we were going to have a fun conversation. I thought I would challenge myself with a little limerick or a little rhyme. So
Yes.
I thought it wasn't too bad. One is a thespian who sold body bags. I mean, it's like a setup for that one, William. And the other is the original IT guy who's been to hell and back. So you know what? I want a little bit of cred, listeners, for that one. That was possibly Scotch enabled. Every once in a while,
Mhm,
I explain to my listeners that some of the work I do is Scotch enabled.
mhm.
And that's what helps me sometimes be a little more creative. So
Gotta get
listen, I love this conversation. It's inspiring. So tell me, 2025, you've already funded two charities locally. Who were those charities this year?
The charities this year that have been funded have been
Strong
Domestic
start.
Violence Victims Alliance
Yeah.
and Strong Start. So, Domestic Violence Victims Alliance is providing clothing and housing needs to women who have escaped violent partners,
Wow.
And also emotional support.
and also emotional support.
Wow.
And Strong Start helps children with literacy goals, because the thing about literacy is we have to start out with learning to read, but then
Yeah.
we have to read to learn. And if you
Yeah.
miss that gap, that bridging point,
Yeah.
it's a downhill trajectory. So
Yeah.
charities are very important.
Wow. And you know what? I mean, I will say that I resonate with both of those charities historically. My mom raised a bunch of ragtag boys on her own because of some domestic challenges that we had when I was young. And in addition to that, I had a significant speech impediment as a child and actually struggled to read for many, many years. Probably have mild dyslexia still. But that was a challenge for me, and it was a challenge in school because I couldn't read very well, and I had difficulty speaking, and I had to go to therapy, and a lot of different things had to happen. What I do today is really disconnected to who I was growing up, which is a sort of a part of my journey. But first of all, again, it's interesting to me. Both of those charities, I could absolutely get on board and resonate with immediately. I could give $100 to that, gentleman.
So now
And
now that you've overcome those challenges, now that
yeah,
you're able to speak with
yeah,
your voice,
yeah.
can we count you as another man who gives a damn? Will you
Hey,
join?
you can count me as the 101st man who gives a damn. You know what? I want to give a shit. Actually, and I'm seriously, I want to get connected with you guys in the local
Yes.
community. I love what you're doing. And I know you got this big event coming up, maybe, in July. It's July, you said?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
July 17th.
Okay, so you know what? I think I might be on a golfing week, but if not, I want to participate. I do want to participate, and if you would have me and let me in your fold, which by the
Well,
way is
my God.
it's a dangerous decision, gentlemen. But if you were to have me bring me into your fold, I would love to be part of this movement in my local community. And again, if you're listening in, I don't care where you are in the world right now. Listen, you got to convert your give a shit into action because here's the challenge is that we all have this idea that it's the thought that counts. I want to tell you frankly, that's just bullshit. It's not the thought that counts. It's actually the action that counts. It starts with a thought. That's awesome. But it's the action that counts. And again, if you're listening in, you can think about wanting to contribute. You can think about wanting to do something in your community, but you've got to activate that idea. And what I love about what you guys are doing, William and Adam, is you're activating. You got off your ass. You called a group of people together who clearly are responding, and you're bringing these people together, and you're bringing community together. You're challenging people about what investing in our community, and again, so many of us bitch and complain about the problems in the world, but it's like going to the baseball game. I don't go to baseball again because I hate it. But at the baseball game, the guy behind me can bat better, run better, and feel better than everybody in the fucking
Yeah.
field. The problem is he can't get his hot dog out of his mouth to get out and play the game.
Yeah.
What I love about you guys is you've gotten the hot dog out of your mouth, gotten out of the stands, and you're playing the game. And to me, there's nothing more impressive than that. And I really want to thank you for the contribution you're making to the local community. I appreciate what you're doing. We're just meeting for the first time, but I'm super excited about the possibility of connecting with you guys and another bunch of men who give a damn and saying, hey, what can we do for the sake of our community? Because I have benefited from social investment in this community. I used a food bank as a child in this community.
Mhm.
I have benefited by the goodwill and gesture. I had a big brother in the Big Brothers Association growing up. I had two of them.
Yes.
And they invested in my life. And now it's time to give back. And I give back in lots of ways, but I want to get on board with this thing. And again, I'm going to challenge you. If you live in a community, go online and look it up. Is there 100 women who care? Is there 100 men who care? Is there 100 men who give a damn in your local community? And if there is, get off your ass and get involved. And if there isn't, you got to find William. I think it's 100menwhogivadamn.org and say, William, how do I do this? You got to connect with Adam and say, how do I do this in our local communities? Because we got to take responsibility for our communities. No government is going to come and fix these things, gentlemen. I don't think that's going to happen.
If the most someone has ever done is change their profile picture to a black square,
Yeah.
or put a little frame around their photo,
Yeah.
that's not enough.
No.
It's time to step up.
Time to step up. Absolutely. So tell me, what does the next year look like, William? What's on the agenda for 100 Men Who Give a Damn? What's going to happen in 2025 and 2026?
Well, we've stepped up our social media, so I'm hoping for more members. I'm hoping for action there. If we could crack 200, that would be awesome, but I'd be happy to be 150 as well. So, the bigger the population we have in the room, the bigger the big check, and I really want to make that much more of a difference in the community.
Freaking awesome. I love it. Adam, where do you, obviously you in partnership with William here, you've got similar goals, but what do you want to see?
Very similar goals. I also really look up to the 100 Women Who Care in our
Yeah.
region. They're doing exceptionally well. And we were at their 10-year anniversary as well. And I was kind of blown away because they had more panache than we do. So I feel like 100 men, we got to step up our panache. That's what I see for the next year.
Okay, hold on. Whoa. This word is just way beyond me, Adam. Okay, so what kind of panache do you
A
still
little
need?
style, a little je ne sais quoi, a little something that just makes it sparkle a little bit more.
Dude, with a voice like yours and a mustache like that, there's no woman out there with a voice like you and a mustache like that, Adam. Who's got panache? Who's got panache like that, brother?
All right. Well, I'll take that as a vote of confidence for more video promos for a
No,
while.
and by the way, I think I belong in the 100 men of give a damn, because if all of the other 98 men are follically challenged like we are,
Oh,
gentlemen,
yes.
we're good to go here. This
Yes.
is, you lose your hair, but you gain your ability to connect with the community. I think
Exactly.
that's a good byline.
Yes.
That is so awesome. So listen, I love what you guys are doing. Again, I'm sure you're figuring this out from the conversation. And I here's what I want to say to you, and take this in the spirit it's meant, gentlemen. I want to thank you on behalf of our community. Okay, I was a benefactor of great men and women who have given to this community over the years. Okay, and so I want to thank you on behalf of all the people that you are gathering funds for and investing in this community. I want to say, you know what, it actually, this is actually what our world needs. This is what our community needs. Listen, government will come with policies and they're going to do stuff, but at the end of the day, we also have a responsibility, and we can't just wash that down to somebody else. And what I love about you is that you're not abdicating your responsibility to others, gentlemen. You're saying, I have a responsibility and I have an opportunity. I have a leverage point. I can leverage that for connection and community. I have an ability to bring people together. I can use the skills that I have, whether it's in IT or marketing, or as an ex-Hells Angel. That's another story. Body bag salesman, whatever it takes. But I want to thank you on behalf of the community, because I actually think this is what real community is all about. This is what true community is all about. Communities aren't just these false sense of identity that we have because we live in a neighborhood. True community is actually the investment that we make in one another and our fellow man or woman or child in our community for the positive benefit of others. And I just want to say on behalf of the local community that I have been a benefactor of the goodwill of others in. We need more people like yourselves and the other 98 and the other people and the women that care. And so I really appreciate the investment that you're making. You could go and do lots of other things with your time and energy. That's a choice. And you're applying your time and energy and skills to something that has tremendous value. And at the end of the day, this is what, to me, living uncommodified is all about. It's living our unique selves for the positive benefit of others. And so I just want to thank you on behalf of the local community, the community I live in, the community you're investing in and you've invested in for years, and I never even knew you existed. And now I know you exist, and I want to get on board and figure out how I can be of help. I can definitely bring $100 from my wife's bank account every time I come.
Well,
I guarantee you, I can bring $100 from her bank account and maybe even 100 more from my bank account.
We don't ask where it comes from.
It doesn't matter. And my dog has a bank account too. And by the way, he's a
awesome.
very generous giver. It's so awesome. So let me ask you, here's what I want you to do as we wrap up.
Mhm.
If you could give, and I'll get individually, I'll call on you. I'd like you to just think about this. If you could give one challenge to people listening, what's your challenge to them? What would be your provocation to them as they consider this conversation and ask what they should do? William, I'm going to start with you. What would you want people to take away from this sort of ragtag conversation that we've just had?
Well, to echo what you said, show up. Whether it's at a 100 men meeting, 100 women who care, show up. If it's volunteering at local charities, show up, be there. There's so much need out there. There's over 3,000 charities that are registered in the Waterloo region alone. And mind you, some of those are churches and such, but that still is a lot of need out there,
Yeah.
a lot of want. And my urge is just be there, show up, and again, if we could grow our numbers, we can make more of a difference in the local community.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, William. Thanks very much. Adam, I'm going to give it over to you.
Yeah, so I'll echo briefly William's statement of show up. Absolutely, that's important. But what I would say is most important for you if you're not sure where to start is just start. Maybe you're not ready to give $100 every quarter. Maybe you're not ready to join 100 Men Who Give a Damn yet. So just find a charity that you care about, that matters to you, that maybe impacted your life, or maybe impacted your friend's life, or your sister's life, or someone's life, and give $100 to them. How does that feel? Sit with that for a minute. How does that feel? And if it feels good, then join us.
Great provocation, gentlemen. I really love it. And as you're both talking, I'm thinking about, and I'm going to bastardize the quote a little bit, but Martin Luther had this really interesting idea, Martin Luther King Jr., where he talked about this idea of this generosity, this sort of a radical generosity that we ought to express. But what he said one time in a speech is that we should not be generous by proxy. And I think this is what I love, I guess, about the conversation is sometimes we're generous by proxy, and we sort of, sometimes I've even done this. I've used my money to keep people away from me. I've given, but actually the gift has been to keep people away from my door. What I get the sense here is that you guys have figured out an idea, and something you're passionate about is we're not going to be generous by proxy. We're going to get involved. We're going to get dirty. We're going to invite people. We're going to listen. We're going to care. We're going to find another 100 men who give a damn. And we're going to not just be generous by proxy. We're not just going to give over here and let someone else figure it out. We're going to get in the trenches and figure out how do we partner with people that we can have a sense of connection to. It's grassroots, it's connection, it's all those things. And that's why I think it's so wonderfully brilliant.
Yeah.
And I know it's wonderfully brilliant, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, but I've done a lot of charity work around the globe. And I will tell you this, I am so glad that I found you on Facebook. I am so glad that you guys have cracked the Facebook code, and that Mr. Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, who is usually Meta for evil, in this case is Meta for good. And I am glad I found you doom scrolling at 4:15 a.m.
Well, Tim,
William, yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Tim, you hit the nail on the head with the key word there was we listen.
Yeah.
Because that's what our meetings are. Is we show up and we listen to 3 charities, tell us why they matter. And every guy in that room sits down and thinks for a moment of the 3 charities I actually listen to.
Yeah.
Who do I want my money to go to? It's a measure of your agency to say, I give a shit right here, right now. This is where my money's going.
Yeah, I love it. That's so awesome. Okay, so they're going to find you guys. It's 100menwhogiveadamn.org. What a very simple URL. Good catch, William. I like it. Absolutely. How do they email you? We already told this. William, if they're going to email you, what are they emailing?
info@100menwhogiveadamn.org.
I thought your name, when I first emailed you, I thought the guy's name is Info. That is amazing. He must be German. Info.
That's 100 men who give a damn.
Okay, info@100 men who give a damn. Adam, do you have an email there or no?
You can reach me at adam@100menwhogiveadamn.org.
What? Not info to at? Come on here. We should have had
It's a work in
admin
progress.
at.
You can't have everything perfect from the get-go.
We should have had admin at 100 men who give a damn. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the generous gift of your time. And my hope is that this conversation is going to stir people in their local communities. My hope is going to stir people in this community, and we get a chance to get it out in the next little while. You know what? I just have great faith for what that could do. And definitely as we finish up, my challenge to you listeners are, you know what? Don't wait for another 100 men or women to give a damn. Be the one person who gives a damn. Be the one person who gives a damn, who gives a shit about some stuff in your local community, and start there. As Adam said, just start. And if it's only one person who gives a damn in the start, that's great. Then it'll be 2, and then it'll be 3, and then it'll be 1,000, and that's the way we're going to actually make an impact in our communities. Again, if you listened in for a reason. Thanks for listening in. Do me a favor, DM me on social media and let me know what you're doing with this conversation. And if you want to become a body bag salesman, you can also you can send info at 100 men who give a damn and figure out how to do that. You can also email me at tim@uncommodified.com if you want to look me up, and I'll get you connected with these gentlemen or someone else in your local community around the world if that's where you want to express your generosity. Thanks for listening in. Cheers. Have a wonderful day.